is Raise Your Voice as part of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Brett Rutherford, joined as always by my good friend and co host, Darby Robinson. And we are live for the first time in the new year on youtube.com/at Raise Your Voice. And also, of course, available wherever you get your podcast. If you love what we do here on Raise Your Voice, you want to say thank you, you can head on over to patreon.com/Raise Your Voice and you can become a member for as little as $1 a month. Darby, Happy New Year. Um, Maybe we'll have a minute for Bucks Minute at the end of the show. I don't really care to talk about them too much. Also, because we have a ton of Rays news to cover, since the Rays snuck in a major trading day right before the holidays. It was right before I was packing up to travel to Florida for the holidays. So we didn't get a chance to hop on and talk. And this is a trade that we've been waiting for a couple of years. Very blessed for all the time we got to watch him in a Rays uniform. But we got to open the show with the three-team deal that sent Brandon Lowe to the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Mhm.
Let's run through the full deal first because a lot of players involved in this one. So going from the Rays to the Pirates, Brandon Lowe, Mason Montgomery, and Jake Mangum. Lowe on the last year of his contract extension is owed $11.5 million. Montgomery was a young left-handed reliever that really struggled this year, but lots of team control and lots of reasons to think he will be a good reliever at some point. And then Jake Mangum, the 29-year-old rookie, who I think did his role admirably this year, but he's a 29-year-old rookie, doesn't do anything really special and I wish him a ton of luck in Pittsburgh. Going from Pittsburgh to Houston, Houston was the third team that made this deal come together. Is young starting pitcher Mike Burrows, who's controllable, an interesting piece, probably a middle rotation guy at best, but a very capable major league starting pitcher. And then going from Houston back to the Rays is left-handed hitting outfield prospect Jacob Melton. Projects to play a decent enough center field, lots of power, a lot of great batted ball data in the minor leagues for Jacob Melton. Struggled in his short stint in the big leagues, but a guy that is ready. Could start the season in Durham, but is major league ready. And also right-handed pitching prospect Anderson Brito, who is kind of sitting mid 90s, but has shown the ability to get up to 100 miles an hour. Short frame, so there's relief risk in there, but a highly, an up and coming pitching prospect in the Astros system. Definitely the type of player that is no shock the Rays targeted in this deal. So Darby, that trade as it was coming together, and we didn't really learn about the Astros part until a little bit later in that afternoon, as the rumors kind of floated for a long time. What was your when like the first report of the full trade came out? Um, what was your initial reaction?
Uh, the initial reaction, I think, uh, I actually think I was pretty surprised Houston was in there. I
Mm,
think it felt like they were probably in on a different trade that
yeah,
we'll talk about, a different player from the Rays. Like Houston and Tampa Bay were kind of linked up, and so I was a little surprised to see them as the third team. I had heard some rumors of different third legs of that potential thing. So I was a little surprised by Houston, but I knew that there was some definite people that were circling around there. And we had talked, I think, a little bit about it. Jake Myers as like a potential there, and I
hmm
think we even mentioned like Jacob Melton's name, two guys that are like good outfield speedster guys.
yeah. Your pie
But
in
I
the
think
sky
over
names are like Cam Smith, but I don't think they want to trade
that would have been,
him.
yeah, that would have been fun for the Florida State fans
Yeah.
out there. Um, I think the biggest thing though is that like the end of the Brandon Lau era.
Mm,
This is one of the all time great Rays. We felt like it was probably closing in. He might have basically this was going to be the last year here anyway, right?
you're
He was
right.
going to either stick around and play it out one more year, which would have been cool too, but it was seemingly, he's about to be 32, be 33 next year, and last year of his deal. probably was going to be the last year, but still, it's the finality of it is kind of big, right? This is one of my favorite Rays. I think oftentimes much maligned unfairly by some Rays fans
Yeah, he got like a lot of
for
Kevin
weird
Kiermaier
things.
treatment. I feel like getting punished
Yeah.
for like injuries and like, of course,
Hmm.
that's part of it. Like you want players that are healthy and playing every day. I get that.
The
I
best
love.
ability is availability.
Yeah, and we I try not to hate on the players that get hurt all the time, but like the player that just shows up and he's in the lineup every day and nothing's bothering him, or if it is bothering him, he's going to play through it and not be a big deal. Like we love those guys too, but Brandon Lau, I love regardless. I mean, he played a full as close to a full Brandon Lau season as you're going to get last
Mhm.
year. Finished with 31 home runs, only his second 30 plus home run season of his career. But the WRC plus was down to 114, one of his worst seasons. If you just look at WRC plus as the catch-all stat, um, the biggest reason I think you could fear what Brandon Lau is going to be moving forward is the defense.
Mm.
Um, some advanced defensive
Weirdly bad
metrics
year.
graded him
Weirdly
out
bad
as
year
one
on
of the
defense.
worst, if not the worst, everyday second baseman in the game. So I think that is an interesting concern. But with Brandon Lau, he doesn't just play second. He's played some corner outfield. He's played, and I've been advocating for him to move to first base for a
Hmm.
while because he's never been a Gold Glove winner. But if you listen to some defensive metrics, he became last year, somewhat of a liability out there.
Which was a little bit against the eye test. I didn't think he looked terrible. Like
No, well,
he
he's
he
always been
looked,
great, like fundamentally, like the footwork. There's never
yeah.
been an issue there. It's a range thing for him, and as he gets older and more banged
Totally.
up, he's not going to be as rangy as he was when he was first coming into the big leagues.
And he's been suffering with some bad back issues, which is tough, right? Because like
It's
as you get older, that does not help. It does not get better. It's just pain tolerance and
it's
whatnot.
crazy.
So
You watch a lot of baseball, and then it's like a player gets into his 30s and they're banged up more, and their defense goes downhill quickly, and that happens to the vast majority of major league. Like you got to think about
yeah,
it like this: most major league players don't even get into their 30s. Like their
right.
career just ends before their 30s. The ones that stick around, there's a reason that the other 30-year-olds aren't playing in the big leagues because it's a lot harder to compete against those 24 and 25-year-olds that keep coming up from the minors as your body ages. So as much as I love Brandon Lau, he is the type of player that might age differently in terms of production than a
Hmm.
Yandy Diaz. If you look at who was traded instead of the other, we can talk about like the
Right.
Pete Fairbanks decision. You know, closers, a lot of them just they fall off a cliff, right? And we see that with the
Yeah.
Fairbanks fastball velocity. Like he might be right on the edge of that cliff, or they tinker something and they figure it out. And so Brandon Lau, compared to Yandy Diaz and their profiles, if I'm going to bet on someone to have a longer career or a more consistent career, I'm going to bet on a Yandy Diaz, and the Rays made the same bet here.
Yeah, and I think that's the big key is I think with Lau, you see the power. I mean, this is one of the most gifted power bats in Rays history,
Hmm.
right? Like he ascended the list of most home runs hit by a Rays hitter. I think he's finished third, right? He will
Yeah,
be in the top three. He's on the podium
and
all
he's
time.
third, I think, in single season home runs for when he hit 39 in 2021.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, so amazing power. Um, Brandon from accounting is the old joke, right? Doesn't look like this prestigious power guy. But always would out homered Yandy, even though
Hmm.
Yandy is potentially like you could say almost like double the size as Yandy's like a 6 foot, four 245 pound of pure muscle. But Brandon Lau, this guy who's just going up there, doesn't looks unassuming, but man, he brings the thunder at the plate. And so for Pittsburgh, who's
Where does he
been
rank
really
for you in terms of all-time Rays players?
uh it's interesting. We talked about we did this a while back when it came to like second, like all
Yeah.
time, second base, and like that's been a really good position for the Rays. And I go back and forth. I think Ben Zobrist, the fact that he played some passable right field, allowed me to kind of like get both of those guys because those are two of my favorites.
Yeah.
But I think for me, he's top 10 for me personally.
I think he's squarely in the top 10, but maybe at the bottom few of the set,
Yeah, I
eight,
think he's
9, or 10
probably.
on that list.
I haven't done a recent like thinking about that through down the list, but I would be surprised if he doesn't make my top 10. And I think a lot of that is also stubbornness because I do think I fought a lot of online battles in the comment sections about like, the he's not clutch and he gets hurt and he's blah blah
Yeah.
blah. And it's just like, yeah, okay, but like Taylor Walls is always healthy, but you don't want him out there every day. Like whatever you get from Brandon Lowe is going to be one of the best. Taylor Walls just catching a stray out of nowhere. But
Yeah.
like Brandon Lowe, you're going to do a lot worse than Brandon Lowe. Like most teams are.
Right.
He is very, very good. And so I'm kind of, there is a part of me, and this is also kind of the fighter in me, but like there's a part of me that has been eager to see Brandon Lowe while he is still kind of, not like in the very twilight of his career, like still has like some good years left, get a chance to play with a different like group of fans to potentially appreciate, like a different set of eyes to appreciate what Lowe can do. And so I think that could be fun to see that, like personally. And this is, again, that's a very weird take. I know maybe that's just the Rays fan in me that like, that's what I'm thinking about. But like,
I'm glad that it's the Pirates and not the
National
Yankees.
League. That's great. Oh yeah, no, I don't want to see anybody in the Yankees or Red
because he
Sox,
would like,
but
he's probably would
that
be a
short
really
porch
good
though.
fit.
Oh my god,
for them,
50.
for Boston, for like he would fit in like all Toronto at some point probably could have used a Brandon Lowe, and maybe they're just adding players left and right.
But no, that was my first. The big thing is just this is Brandon Lowe is awesome, and I'll be sad not to see him there opening day, but I'm excited for him to potentially, hopefully, give Paul Skeens a little bit of production behind him.
It's a good fit. It's a good fit in Pittsburgh.
It's a great
team that needed another veteran bat, another more proven commodity. They're in a weird spot in their rebuild where it's kind of like a put up or shut up season for Pittsburgh in this young core. I mean, it's O'Neal Cruz who's coming off a bad year, and then it's like a bunch of other, like you've still got the Brian Reynolds of the world, but it's a bunch of other
seems
kind of
like very Twilight at this
spare
point,
parts
maybe
in a really good, in a potentially really good rotation. Led by the best pitcher in the game.
Yes.
So Brandon Lowe, what he brings to that is like that veteran presence, but also, for the first time in his career, he's going into a contract year. And this is his, he signed that really team-friendly extension, but at a time when he was not a proven commodity, and we were all kind of shocked when he did sign that extension. He brings, he has that opportunity. This is his last chance to cash in on a potential, $40 or $50 million contract, and he would need to have a really good season for that to be the case. If not, he's probably going to be a 1 to 2 year deal guy from here until the rest of his career. But if he puts together a 35 home run season and stays healthy, he might make $50+ million on the free agent market.
Well, I mean, you look at like Jorge Polanco, right? You look at Jorge Polanco's market 2 years ago, last year, and then this year, and I think that's your range of outcomes, right? Depending upon how healthy and how productive he is.
Yeah.
On the other flip side, so what the Rays are getting back, big name that's coming back is Jacob Melton. So both Brito and Melton, are both pretty big names. They're top prospects. In the Astros system, which is not the best system, honestly. Their system is a little depressed, but both Melton and Brito are top 100 or fringe top 100 guys. They have made top 100 lists. Melton is fourth in MLB Pipeline's Rays. They update their top 30 fastest. So Jacob Melton's fourth. Brito slots in at sixth. So immediately adding two guys to your top 10 to advance it. And the thing with Melton, all the talk there is the fact that this is a guy who has elite level defense. He has great range. He's smooth out there, very, very instinctual in the outfield. Like this is a person who the Rays do believe could be a Kiermaier-esque impact, a guy who can change the game on defense, swipe some bags, hit some dingers, and really carry it on defense. The as like a hitter, we did not see much in the majors, but like in AAA, like he has made some huge improvements each year, and there is a lot of potential. Like there's a bat there,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of contact. It's a lot less swing and miss than you'd expect. It's a lot more contact, and it's a lot of hard contact. Over 60% hard hit rate last year, max EV of 113, which is really really good. Um, doesn't doesn't whiff that much, doesn't chase that much, pulls the fly balls, and like I said, very fast, very smooth outfielder with really good instincts, really good routes. This is a guy who can play center field, day one if you need to. You've signed
Yeah.
and you've done a bunch of left-handed center field types, so maybe not immediately, but
You
this is
wouldn't
a
have
potential center
signed
fielder of the future.
Mullins, Fraley, and Mullins if you knew you were getting Melton, I think.
It does feel weird. It feels awkward. I think we'll have to talk about like how the chips have settled and where they go from here. But it is awkward. You have Chandler Simpson, you have Josh Lowe, you signed both, like you said, Fraley and Mullins, and now you add another left-handed guy who can play center field with DeLuca and Mullins. DeLuca right-handed, obviously, but like
Yeah.
he's
I have
the only right-handed guy out there.
I have a lot of fears about the way this roster is currently constructed.
Currently is the key.
There's
Currently is the
work to be
key.
done.
There is still a weirdly long off season to go. We took a few weeks off for the holidays, and everything that happened that we're talking about happened like day one of that holiday break,
Yeah.
and then the rest of that, the last 3 weeks, nothing else. Not a single other thing happened in the baseball world. So everybody took the time off. There's a couple things, but like nothing in
Yeah.
the Rays and very little else. So you went into the holidays and New Year's and all that, and like you're like, oh, I wonder where Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette and Ranger Suarez are gonna sign, and oh, that Ketel Marte is out there available. Wonder what's gonna happen. Good news, everything is still the exact same. We're still
Yeah.
waiting on all of those guys. But
Melton,
yeah,
the only other thing I'll say about Melton is I feel like, he's 20, he's going into his age 25 season. He was limited last year due to injury, but the games he did play in AAA, it was a decent sample size. It was like a month and a half in AAA. He mashed and struggled big time in the big leagues. He's one of those where I don't know how much there is more to learn at AAA for a player that's going to be 25. It feels like this is, you're up. And if he struggles, you can send him back down. If it's an extended period of struggle, but the clock's ticking. He's been added to the 40-man roster, so why not play him?
this is not a trade where you are trading for like the long future.
Right.
This is not a trade that's like we will see these guys in 3 years. This is a guy that's immediate impact. But
you would say
we'll
he's
see
better
what that
than
means.
Johnny DeLuca right now as an everyday, type center fielder.
I mean, here's the thing. Like we've seen DeLuca do it. I think with Melton, all of the scouting, all of the like reports are saying like he could be a center fielder day one on a lot of major league rosters. And the bat profiles in a way that should be at least pretty playable. That the thing that he struggled with, which was tough because it was his first, taste of the majors, was a lot of chase and a lot of swing and miss, which is very much not his game, and it's not been his game throughout his professional baseball career. It's very different than say, some other guys that the Rays have had, which are a lot of power but a lot of whiff.
Yeah.
High. So it's a lot of maybe just deciding what to swing at, but he has not chased a ton, and he has not been strikeout prone in the minors, which is nice, which is kind of something that we have seen the Rays do a lot of times. Like that's something that Jake Fraley doesn't have a problem with. That's something that Cedric Mullins does not have a problem with. That is something that Brandon Lowe and Christopher Morel did have a problem with. And it's something that Josh Lowe has a problem with, but he's still here. So
he is.
how long is he going to be here?
I think when it comes to roster construction, it's like you do all this work and you acquire all of these left-handed hitting outfielders, and each one you acquired, you probably did it with the thought process, well, if I had known I was going to get this player, then I wouldn't have got this player. So it's like we started the offseason, it's like, all right, we need the insurance plan, and that's Jake Fraley. And then it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, we can actually sign Cedric Mullins for what we want. Man, I wish
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't have signed Fraley. We have Mullins now. It's like, oh, we could have traded for Jacob Melton. I didn't know that was possible. I wouldn't have signed Mullins or Fraley. Like, and now you're stuck
Maybe
with them. And like, if you go to trade, like, okay, like Josh Lowe, like what value does he have? Chandler Simpson, does he have any value? Fraley and
Jake
Mullins, like,
Mangum. Jake Mangum had some value because he is a piece in this
he was a
deal.
throw-in piece, and we can talk about Jake Mangum. And he's a switch hitter, but again,
You mentioned
Fraley's
that
with
not a
that
lot of
left-handed
players get to
hitting.
30. What if you start your first at 30? No, he's 29. That's how you get to. That's the hack. That's the new hack. Start at 29, gets to 30.
And that was, I think, played a big part in why he was as
Yeah.
successful as he was in his role with the Rays in 2025. Also, the idea is to get better. The Rays need to get better
Right.
than they were
Upgrade.
last year.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they did that with this trade or the next trade that we're going to talk about. Let's finish out the return. Anderson Brito. Um,
Yeah.
I think like really exciting.
I
Could
mean,
go
yeah,
a
this
lot of different
is
ways, but
he's a little bit further away, obviously, and you mentioned little on the smaller side. So again, always a little worry there, but the upside is tremendous. Like,
yeah,
I mean, this is the Rays. The last couple of seasons have really reshaped this farm system, and they had kind of fallen on some lean times, but there is some really big time pieces now. After the 2024 trade deadline and this kind of couple moves that we're going to be talking about, huge influx of talent. And so there's a good debate that you can have about who is the best pitching prospect that is on the Rays system right now. I think Brody Hopkins is really high up there. I think he is my favorite.
yeah.
But Anderson Brito,
And Ty
I think there's a lot of
Johnson.
people that would absolutely take Brito. And the other person will be one we're about to talk about, which is Michael Ferret. So
Yeah.
like that's like a few like having in the last 2 years adding three guys who have very legitimate claims to being the top pitching prospect in a not bottom of the barrel farm system is really impressive. And so Brito's a little further away, but the waves of pitching that the Rays have coming, starting next year with guys like Brody Hopkins, who will probably debut at some point, or Brito, who could be there the next year after that, is really, really exciting.
I think the Rays have enough pitching prospects now where you feel comfortable that at least like two of them will hit right and be successful.
And it's a numbers game. You really
Yeah,
do want to throw numbers because pitching is a brutal thing. Like,
yeah.
a ton of people get Tommy John surgery, a ton of people get injured. A lot of people just can't find the strike zone. Like, you want to have as many bites of that apple as possible.
Do you think like my first reaction when I was looking at this full return is I thought the Pirates for both what they gave up and what they got would have needed to give up one more piece. Not like a
Mm,
Burrows would have been the main piece that they gave up to Houston. I was kind of like hoping that the Ray like they would also send someone to the Rays, maybe like a Jared Triolo,
that would be
who
nice.
is right-handed hit. And maybe they value him the same way that the Rays would, where he's a right-handed hitting infielder, can play literally all around the diamond.
Hmm.
That's just the type of player the Rays would love. And it felt, he's more of a bench player for the Ray or a role player, right? He would just be the platoon guy, and bounce around the infield, giving guys days off. But he would kind of fit what the Rays need right now perfectly. Where like, okay, we need a
Yeah.
second baseman, a guy that could also play some short, a guy that could play some third and give Junior a day off. Like it's kind of what they need. I was hoping like you just get one more piece like that, but it wasn't the cards.
It's an interesting trade because I think I do like what Pittsburgh, I like Pittsburgh the most out of the pieces here. Um, I like the Rays the second most. Houston, it's a little confusing for Houston. They paid a lot to get Burrows, who I like,
So would you
but
have taken Burrows for the what the Rays gave up?
I don't. I would not. As I would not be super fun. I would
I
not
like the
be happy
Melton
with
and
that.
Brito return
I take
more.
Melton and Brito instead of Burrows, and I like. To be fair, I do think Burrows is a really solid pitcher, but I think his upside is a lot lower in this. More years of control. I mean, I think Brandon Lowe is really good, but I think we talked about there is some concern there, health and age, and just 1 year. Like that is only 1 year of control. Like that's not a lot. And the
Yeah,
other two pieces, Jake Mangum is a fine player, really awesome dude, but not a high ceiling guy. And then a
there is
reliever
value.
who,
Mangum's value is he's got, he's above replacement level, right? With the
yeah,
tools that he
yeah,
brings and the experience, maturity that he brings.
yeah.
And he's got 2 more seasons where he'll be at league minimum.
And he can defend. He can play all
Like
three outfield
that's a
positions.
really
Like,
cheap 30-year-old, right? We talked about
yeah,
like, those are the guys that get into free agency. Their teams love having the veteran presence around, but you pay a really high premium for that to get someone instead
yeah,
of a young guy that you're just calling up. Mangum gives you a little bit of the best of both worlds, where, obviously a lot has talked about his time at Mississippi State. He was a 4-year player there, like holds a bunch of records, like beloved by Mississippi State fans. And then, loved throughout the Rays organization by all his teammates, by the coaches, gets called up to the big leagues. Like the guy's been around the block, but he's still really cheap. But he can actually play. Like
yeah.
he's not just there to be the morale guy in the dugout. Like he can
No,
actually play.
yeah, and I think like there's a very good chance that last year was his high watermark in
Yeah,
terms of like wins
sure.
above replacement, but that doesn't mean that like that's not a super valuable guy to have on your 26-man roster because he can
And
go
he has
off the bench
options.
and pinch run. He has options. He can switch hit. He can make contact. He can play
Steal
defense. Like
bases
very like a perfect fourth outfielder and cheap, which is also perfect for a fourth
for the
outfielder.
Pirates and for the Rays.
For well, and especially for the Pirates, yeah, especially for their owner. Um, yeah, I think it's a three-way trades are always fascinating, and this one's a fairly clean one, right? Like every spoke went to one. Like the Rays gave everything to the Pirates gave their one piece to the Astros, and the Astros gave their two pieces to the Rays. There was no
Yeah,
this person gets this and this person gets that. It was pretty much, you know, kind of like two separate trades. Like three team trades like this is just we're doing these three moves, but just all at once.
it felt like this was carried over from the winter meetings, like early frameworks of this trade
And it
would have.
feels like this was probably a little too light for Shane Baz,
Mm,
for Melton
well,
and
clearly,
Brito, which was something that I think we saw Chandler Rome actually mention. He
and
mentioned those two names
yeah,
as pieces.
yeah. There were Boz, like Houston. I think was interested in Boz. That was a rumor flying around. I think the Athletic was reporting on that, or
Yep.
someone was,
Chandler
and
Chandler Rome of the
yeah,
Athletic. Yeah.
Channel Rome. And so, the Rays go out and it's almost like maybe they were balancing these two. It's like, all right, we got to see how this is all going to come together before we pull the trigger on either move.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you wouldn't have shocked me if you told me going into this offseason that 2 Rays players that were going to be traded away were going to be Boz and Brandon Lau.
Yep.
Boz is a guy. Due to some health, and now he's just an established big league pitcher. He's very much post hype, um, but that doesn't
Yep.
mean that he can't become the player we thought. Like you can rebound
Yes.
from being a post hype prospect. He's still young and still some really nasty stuff.
T- Speaking of somebody he was with, Tyler Glasnow was the post type prospect that the
Yeah,
Pirates traded with
right,
Boz
right. Boz was
for
the
his
first
archer.
round pick, right? Boz
Yeah,
is,
he was the pre hype,
yeah.
and Tyler Glasnow was Boz now, which was I don't know. There's stuff there, but it's not working.
So,
So yeah.
anyways, he gets traded to the Baltimore Orioles, Shane Boz,
In division,
for
yeah,
Caden Bodine, a catcher who was drafted in the first round of last year's draft out of Coastal Carolina. Slater DeBrun, who is a high school outfield pick from last year's draft in the actually taken with the draft pick that the Rays traded to the Orioles for Brian Baker. So the Rays just
Yes.
loaned out that pick. The Orioles made their pick, but the Rays get the guy right back. Michael Frett, pitching prospect who you mentioned earlier, a high octane fastball, big tall righty, killed it in Double A last year. Excuse me.
Yes.
Austin Overn, who was an early round pick in 2024. Lots of interesting tools. Could be something good. And they Rays get another competitive balance pick back from the Orioles. Um, this return shocked me.
This was a monster haul.
Yeah, the what I thought Shane Baz was worth after the season he had last year, I was just way off base. And if you had told me, you know, the Rays got maybe two of these players and the pick, I would have said, okay,
Yeah.
that's a solid return for Baz. Like I'd pull the trigger
Yep.
on that trade. To get Bodine, DeBrun, Fournette, over and the pick.
Oof.
Again, it's like, okay, out of these five players, when one's the pick, like if two of them are decent big leaguers, like this is a huge win for this trade. If
Huge
three of
win.
them are, if four of them are, I mean, we're talking about a glass or an Archer type
Right.
trade
Right.
um, that Boz came to the Rays from.
This is the Delman Young trade tree
It,
that
it
is
will
a
never
mighty
die.
sequoia.
It will
It is a
never
mighty
die.
sequoia that has just a gigantic, this is Hyperion, the world's tallest tree, which is a
Because
coastal
was
redwood.
Boz was he the last branch on the team?
Was he the last branch?
We
He was
should
the
know
last branch
this.
of that trade on that team. Yeah.
Yeah,
Did
but is there
was
anyone?
there well DeLuca is part of that.
I'm on DelmanYoungTradeTree.com.
Perfect.
I
Which
don't
everybody does
know.
have bookmarked. I
Oh,
hope so.
okay. So no,
Because DeLuca's there.
Hunter Biggie is
Yep.
part of it. Oh yeah, DeLuca, Ty
Yep.
Johnson, because the Paredes
Yes.
trade is the Delman Young trade tree as well.
Yep. Yep. This is, the roots go far and wide.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
no, this
Shane
is
Boz trade has not yet
crazy.
been added to DelmanYoungTradeTree.com.
They're slacking. It was
So
the
I'm
holidays.
gonna.
It was the
It's
holidays.
apparently it comes from Baseball Reference. So I'll send an email. We'll get it fixed.
Perfect. Perfect. Um, yeah, no, I mean, so this trade, this is the type of move. It also, I think, in retrospect, kind of makes Mike Burrows make a lot more sense, right? Like, so like maybe Mike Burrows is worth Brito and Melton, because if Boz is worth that, okay, fourth or fifth starter, yeah, you'll take two of your top five prospects for that. Um, yeah, that is a price setting. Now there is in division premium tacked onto this, right? Like to win this trade, Baltimore is going to need to probably pay up more than say Pittsburgh or the Dodgers or whoever else that's not in the AL East would be spending. But my gosh, this was like that was my first reaction, was like, I all of them, was it all of these players are in this trade? Like, is that all of, like, is it like a potential, like, here are the names we've heard floated? No, this is it. We're final.
These are the players. They're all coming back.
And a pick.
And a pick.
And a pick.
I don't know, right? It feels like one of those Rays trades. Now,
Yeah.
the Rays have gotten these massive hauls before, and none of them worked out. Looking at the Blake Snell trade, that's the risk.
But
right?
Blake Snell was a really good pitcher.
Yeah,
He was a Cy Young winning pitcher.
Yeah, he
like
was.
now, Shane Baz he's a good pitcher. He had good moments. And last year, I think he was much better on the road than he was at home. Home field was really disastrous for pitchers with home runs. All that being said, like, you got more for Shane Baz than you got for Blake Snell.
Yeah.
Like, even like on the surface, like, not, and this isn't like, hindsight, goes back, and a lot of these guys like flamed out. And again, we could be looking back in 5 years and all these guys flamed out too. Like, that's baseball. Prospects will break your heart. But like Luis Patino, while he was a legit, like, he was a top 25 league wide guy when he was traded. Like, this is he was, very, very elite, like, level prospect. The rest of that was not as, you know, sexy. Like this is a lot of talent. Like now it's a lot of new talent. So that's what's interesting. You got guys like Overn and Bodine and the draft pick. That's almost like this is looking like more like an NBA or NFL type of draft or type of play where you are trading draft picks,
Yes.
not prospects. So this does feel more different than a lot of those because these guys they have not had a lot of pro ball experience so far.
They haven't. No. This is
Slater Braun as well. Like, I mean, these are guys that all just got drafted like fairly recently, except for Ferret.
yeah. No, this trade could go in a number of different ways, but I think when you get that sort of offer for Boz, who hasn't proven to be anything more than a back end guy to this point,
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to take it. It
Yeah,
does it
it's
almost
a
makes me
risk worth
worry
taking.
that like the Orioles who are starting to build a decent track record with developing pitching, they can't seem to get them healthy. They're kind of going through what the Rays went through.
Yeah,
Um,
their evaluations
makes
are
you wonder
interesting
what
though.
they see in Boz. I mean, I know what they see in Boz, but what confidence do
They,
they have that they can fix Boz?
I don't know if I fully am giving them a ton of credit yet because they have made some interesting valuation pieces, and like we're gonna see how Grayson Rodriguez for Taylor Ward does, but that was already an eye-opening like trade where it's like that's a lot for this, and maybe Rodriguez is just
And then look at the
injured.
premium you had to pay to get Boz, who
Is this would
might
you
be worse than
is that
Grayson.
better? Right. Like, you know, I mean, like health wise, but like
Maybe,
Boss
but
is
Boz
also
has
just
had
coming back
injuries
from
too.
injury.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's overall, like if you're looking at the Baltimore offseason, uh it's fascinating because you're paying up for Pete Alonso, you're trading Grayson Rodriguez for Taylor Ward, where you already have like a dozen like young white blonde outfielders already that all look like Jackson Holiday. And then, but now you're trading for Boz with all of your depth. But I can't fault Baltimore for trading from their prospect depth because they haven't been doing that before. But it's very strange. It's what's strange too is like it's all now, again, this is further down, further away prospects, but that's also, guys, the benefit to that is that these all don't require 40-man space yet.
Yeah.
Like, so there is a premium. Like the Baltimore Orioles have not been trading guys that have been at or near the major league level. And they have run into this problem where they are stacked up on really exciting prospects that are very highly ranked, but you don't have as many, you don't have enough space to play them, but you also don't have guys that are immediately impactful. And so you've kind of missed the boat on sometimes trading for these guys. But now you're trading all of this talent. Like that's the backfill for when you do trade like some of these guys. Like
Okay.
when you trade a Kobe Mayo.
But the Rays finished 2 games ahead of the Orioles last year. The Rays finished fourth in the division. Baltimore would finish last. Who do you think has gotten better for 2026 since the start of the offseason?
Since the start of the offseason to right now, Baltimore.
Yeah.
Baltimore, because
And then who's gotten
Ryan
better, like the Rays or the
Mountcastle.
Blue Jays?
Well, the Blue Jays were already better.
And you're right, and they've continued to get better. And the Red Sox and the Yankees. The Yankees, I don't know if they've gotten better.
Okay, all four of those teams, though, one of them is going to be inexplicably bad. Just know that. Of those four teams that are all perfect gods, one is going to be inexplicably.
Then that's still that's good enough for fourth. Then I mean that was the Orioles last year,
right?
And the Rays finished 2 games ahead of them in fourth. So
I think that's a different conversation than like. So yes, that is they're adding Boz, but like you are. I think this is showing like Baltimore is getting a little nervous that their window is creeping to like not closed, but like it's not like as wide open as it had been, because you are looking at Adley Rutschman is now gone from this is an perennial all-star to being like
so
okay,
if you're the Rays,
weird.
and this is part of your thought, I think you're always focused on your players on your roster and how your team is shaping up. I think that's how Neander looks at it. But do you think there's also a part of him that is like, all right, Baltimore, you you want to chase your window now?
Yeah.
Like, here's one of our starting pitchers. We also just traded away our all-star second baseman. I don't know how we're going to fill those, but if you're going to pay us this much, go ahead, chase your window. We're going to wait a couple years.
Yeah. You're taking your pit now, to switch up sports metaphors. You're pitting now. They're full gas, all gas, no brakes, and you're gonna hopefully catch up with fresh tires.
If you feel
I
like
don't
you're
watch a lot of
and
racing.
there's a
This
and
is
you know I
big
think
hole fell
Neander
apart of me.
thinks they could sneak into a wild card still.
Sure, there's three
I
of them.
I'm not as convinced like that this team.
Okay, but like, did you like the Baltimore Orioles more or less? Remove the Boz trade, remove the Brandon Lowe trade. They just keep those two. Do you like Baltimore or the Rays better?
If we hadn't traded Boz and Lau,
Yeah, yeah.
I I don't know if I like the Rays. I don't know if I could say the Rays are better than the Orioles, but I feel better. But the Rays are better with Brandon Lau and Shane Boz.
They're better, but you'd still take Baltimore.
It um yeah, I still have major concerns about the Rays pitching staff, starting
Okay.
rotation.
But Rays or Boston?
Boston for sure.
Rays or Yankees?
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. That like the Rays weren't very good anyways.
So
So
this is the time to pit. This is the time this is the time to say, okay, Baltimore, okay, Mark Elias, you're the guy that's going to get fired next year if you
and we're
underperform.
gonna have Brody Hopkins up and Jacob Melton up and Carson
Like
Williams
we're
up.
the window, like, and Junior Caminero is 22.
You're right. So
Ron is
you're not worried
25.
about running out his like.
Right. You were looking at, I think, 2027, 2028. Like
And
2027
I
right
agree
now,
with
you can
you.
be a much better.
I think
So
that's what makes me. I think that I haven't gone into a season with this feeling in 7 or 8 years. So maybe, like you said, Rays fans are blessed. Like it's been a long window. The Rays got to the postseason 5 years in a row. They won a pennant. That's better than most teams can say.
yeah.
And now,
Yeah.
instead of going through a full teardown, I think I'm making your case for you. Instead of going through a full teardown
Thank you.
where like you're going to lose 100 games and it's going to suck, you're able to field at a cheap cost a
Mhm.
500 team that maybe stays healthy, gets lucky, and sneaks into a wild card.
And to keep with my very, very labored racing metaphor, you get a car crash and suddenly, bam, you're eighth.
Yeah, sure.
And that's all you need right now because there's been inflation in wild card, and that's what's bad with the inflation in wild card. But like that's where I'm. So I think this kind of translate. Like I think a lot of Rays fans coming in have kind of gone to that point, right? Like so Dan Zaborski had his like snapshot. So I think tomorrow we will probably have the when you're listening to this, you can also then go over to fangraphs.com and check out Dan Zaborski's awesome Zips column on the Rays and like that projection system. And the caveat with that is projection systems oftentimes struggle with platoon based lineups. It's really, really hard for the computer system to kind of mismatch. That's the human element there. But it'll still be an interesting thing to look at. And I think for me, when I look at the projections, like they're not super pretty. It doesn't look great. But then I like, okay, how do you get to that level? Sign Kyle Tucker, sign Pete Alonso. Okay. But
Or
like,
trade for Ketel Marte.
but then you're moving stuff, right? So like, okay, but
Sure.
like that's the so okay, but there's that kind of gets to my major point. So add like Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette, okay, for instance, right? All right, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of risk. You still need a new stadium. That's probably not going to happen, right? So okay, if you're not getting those guys, if you're not spending the money on that, how do you upgrade? If you did trade for Ketel Marte, and you're trading mostly, you just traded for 2 prospects in one trade, and then 4 in another, plus a pick. If you are then taking that, you're maybe almost having too many prospects. You maybe have the Baltimore problem. Do you then take some of those and add a Ketel Marte? Does that does this trade, I guess, make this is my question for you? Does this trade make it more likely to add Ketel Marte? The Rays have been involved in these conversations. They've been everybody keeps in the rumors. It's been Boston, it's been Tampa Bay, it's been Boston, it's been Tampa Bay. You throw another team in there like Seattle, but it's been mostly like Boston and Tampa Bay here. We've heard. Does that make it more likely or less likely to trade for a Ketel Marte? Does adding a 5-win player to make you much better, but like how much better? Like, does that, are you more excited about a Ketel Marte trade if you could do it now? Or would you be like, I don't even know if I want that? Like that might be a lot of pieces when that doesn't get me to the level I want to be at. Like where are you at with Ketel Marte?
I think there's very few players that are on the like list that like okay, I would just nix a Ketel Marte trade. It's like Caminero, it's Aranda, and then you could talk me into a package that includes any other player in the Rays organization. To get Ketel Marte. You've now put yourself though in a position where by trading both Boz and Lowe, that you're not a Ketel Marte away from being in that mix in the AL East because you have a lot of innings to recuperate and build. Like you lost Adrian Hauser to free agency. You trade Shane Boz. This is already after you traded Zach Littell last year at the deadline. He was going to be a free agent anyways, and he still is.
Still
And
is.
nudge, nudge. Eric Neander, go get the guy. The roster restore starting rotation right now is Drew Rasmussen, oft injured, oft innings capped. Ryan Pepio, who I fully believe in as a guy that is gonna stay healthy as much as you can believe in a pitcher to stay healthy and pitch a full season. Shane McClanahan, who's like I don't
We
know.
don't
In my
know.
head, I'm thinking like 100 innings at best. I
I have no idea what the
I have,
limit
I have
is.
no
I
clue,
really don't.
which is even
He
more
was
worrying. That's why I'm
he would
putting
have been
100 innings
back
on it.
fully last year, and then he had a mysterious injury that cost him this whole season.
It seems like they don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
Steven Matz, who was a starter turned reliever, who maybe turned
Probably
starter again.
120 innings, I think, would be a fair, like, high estimate.
Maybe if he's any good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he can throw 120 innings. That's
And
there's been
then
a
you've
lot of
got
bad. You can get to 120.
and then you've
Are they
got
good?
Joe
That's a
Boyle,
totally different story.
Joe
Joe
Boyle,
Boyle.
Ian Seymour,
Mm-hmm.
Osvaldo Bideau,
And
um,
then a
Jesse
number
Schultz,
of
and Joe
different
Rock. Those are your starters.
on the 40 man. But then you also have 3 pitchers in Durham that are going to be of your higher end
Hopkins,
prospects, leading by Hopkins, who could be like your second half of your season. Yeah.
yeah, Ty Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
TJ Nichols would probably not be quite there
So
yet.
don't you think that like if the Rays traded for Ketel Marte now and didn't get Brandon Pfaadt, or think about it, think about some of the returns that Ketel Marte, like Ryan Pepio and Shane Boz were names that were mentioned in Ketel Marte rumors. You really
Mm-hmm.
can't afford to trade Ryan Pepio unless you're getting a starting pitcher back.
So, like, there's a clear hole on the Rays at second base now,
Yeah,
obviously,
let's talk
right?
about second base. They could
So
fill the
that's
innings with anybody. Zach Littell, for example.
yeah, yeah. Ian Seymour could outperform Shane Boz next year. Like that could just be an upgrade. Like that. There's a world where that happens.
Sure.
Like that's not Beto outperforms. Like that could happen. No, it's like Ian Seymour and Shane Boz. I think are a fairly similar. You could have a
And
similar
Joe Boyle, right? Go
Joe
read
Boyle. I
Ben
mean, yeah, Joe
Whitelaw's
Boyle.
piece on draysbay.com on Joe Boyle.
Yes,
Maybe a little more excited about Joe Boyle going into the
a
season.
lot to like there. I mean, a lot to like
Sure.
there. Absolutely. No, yeah. So like, okay, second base, offense is an issue. Defense was an issue. how does the Rays coming back into Tropicana Field, which will help to suppress runs considerably? Um, how do the Rays move on without Brandon Lowe at second base? How do you fill it?
Here's the thing: the answer to this question, for you said defensively and offensively, two very different answers. I mean, defensively, you promote Carson Williams; he's your shortstop, and Taylor Walls is your second baseman.
Oh yeah, defensively, that's great.
Defensively, that is the best upgrade you could have. You have two Gold Glove caliber players up the middle. Taylor Walls would probably grade out as the league's best second baseman,
Yeah,
by
defensively.
far, and because all the other players that are that good play shortstop. Um,
Yes.
that I can't think of a bigger downgrade offensively than going from Brandon Lowe to Taylor
Mm,
Walls
yeah.
on a team where if the Rays are, I mean, I'm not saying this is how the cookie would crumble, but you would project Brandon Lowe to be one of your top four hitters, so one of your everyday players, um, in terms of offensive production. So if you replace that with a guy like Walls, who has consistently been well below league average,
Oh yeah.
um, kind of below replacement level at the plate, um, yeah, that's not very good.
Mm-mm.
So offensively, it's a platoon of Richie Palacios and Ryan Velade.
Currently, right now, yeah.
I don't know. That's not exciting me. That's not Brandon Lau.
No, but you're replacing 31 home runs, 113 WRC plus,
Mm-hmm.
and that is something you can replace. The home runs, maybe not, but with defense and
No,
like
you
that's the
could get more
key. I think.
offensive production from Josh Lowe.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think you can get a lot. So like right now for next season, for instance, I mean the projections are kind of all over the place. So let's use like Steamer at 500 plate appearances has Lau at 106 WRC plus,
Lau or Lowe?
22 home runs and a 1.8 FWAR. The Bat has 27 home runs, 109 WRC plus, and a positive defense. So that would be a big boost, and that gives him 2.7. So that's like a good range. That's like two big ranges. Is the defense rebounds in both cases from being like crazy bad to being like either average to slightly below average, right? Which is what he's been
Mm-hmm.
kind of most of his career. So like that's fair to assume like maybe that just gets him a little bit better, closer to that. Offensively, yeah. So you're looking at like 106 to 109
Yeah. Here's the
and
thing.
about a 2 to 3 win player. So like okay, that's what you're trying to replace. You're not trying to replace the legend of Brandon Lowe. You're trying to replace that. I'm not saying that's a good like replacement, but that is sort of what you're looking at. If you get Ketel Marte, that is an upgrade. He is
And there's not many
considerably better.
players that are easily attainable that are as sure of a thing as Cattell Marte.
No, that he is. I mean, he is a top 15 hitter in the
Yeah.
game.
You'd be making a gamble on any of the 1 year guys, on any
Totally.
of the non roster invitees. You're making big gambles.
A player that I'm a little surprised that's available, um, that I'm a little surprised about the Rays have not been connected to is with our old buddy Heim Bloom and St. Louis Cardinals is Brendan Donovan.
Brennan, except he's another left handed hitting
Sure,
second baseman and
sure.
outfielder. I don't know.
But you're trying to replace a left-hander. You're trying to replace a
But
left-handed
you
hitter.
probably need to replace him with a right hander.
Ah, screw it. Anybody that throws left-handed, you're pitching a shutout. But
But
like,
who does St. Louis want? Josh Lowe?
I have no idea. That's the thing is I have no idea what Heim Bloom wants. But like, I think Brendan Donovan would just like that's an upgrade over Lau. Like
Yeah.
less on the plate, but like the defensively, I think you
Right.
have a bet. Yeah, I think you have probably his average outcome is probably a higher end outcome for Brandon Lau.
Yeah. I think the rate, like if you wanted to keep payroll down and field a 500 team, I would do exactly what Hernander's been doing.
I think if you want to keep the payroll at the same level, yeah. But I think like, do you want to like how much more in payroll do you need to spend to get you to put them ahead of 3 teams in the AL East.
You don't need to be ahead of teams in the AL East. You've got to be. It feels like everyone else in the AL East shares a tier, and the Rays are
Right.
clearly in the second tier.
I mean, that's fair, but like, what does that matter?
That means you don't make the playoffs if you finish fifth.
I mean, it means like if they all hit that tier. Like I think that that's where baseball comes in. Because we have seen this time and time again that like there's the best laid plans and then there's the outcomes. And so all 4 of those teams have to be as good as they all like are projected to be, stay healthy, stay at that level. Like Baltimore is a perfect example, right? On paper, they should not have been abjectly awful last year. They still have not really upgraded their pitching. Now they still could. There's still like some guys out there,
I like
but
the
like
moves
they
they
have work
made.
to do. They
I
have
mean,
work to do.
Eflin with like they signed Eflin.
Oh yeah,
That's
that's not good. I think that's bad. Like that's a fine gamble, but like you
the
the
Rays needed
problem with
Eflin. Like what?
I'm that's a dodge bullet.
I know you don't.
I
I
don't like him.
really worry about this starting rotation covering the innings needed,
I
and
think
we're going
no,
to
I
end
think
up
that's
with
fair.
more guys hurt. We're going to end up with Joe Rock pitching games in August because it's kind of the island of misfit toys in the Rays
I
rotation.
think that, but like every that's I think that's the issue though, is that like if you do you want a game in August that is an opener and a bulk game, or do you want Zach
Yeah,
Eflin
but
for 5 innings of
Zach
like
Littell or Zach
laboring?
Eflin?
Eflin. I want
Oh,
Littell. Littell's good. Like
yeah.
that's the thing. Is like Zach Littell is good. Zach Eflin, he can it like there might be some mechanical like problems that he had last year that are caused that. But there is some just disastrously troubling like red flag things that if I'm Baltimore, I think there is an issue that I have coming into this season where Kyle Bradish is awesome. And then I'm hoping that things go well because you are counting on Dean Kramer and Tyler Wells, and you're counting on Trevor Rogers to be that you've unlocked that. And
Shane
that
Baz.
wasn't just like we've seen as Rays fans, we've seen guys be like, oh, that guy's awesome. And then be like, well, that was it. That was it. That was the one like the kind of the flash in the pan. So you're needing him to be there and healthy. Dean Kramer, Tyler Wells, Zach Eflin, Shane Baz. And then there's nothing else. There's nothing else after that. There is no Brody Hopkins waiting in the wings. There's no Michael Ferret. There is no Ian Seymour. Like, so not to say I'm picking Baltimore ahead of them, but I do not think this is a like wave the white flag scenario. So if you can look for upgrades and to have that there, you should still
No,
do it.
it's not waving the white flag. You could trade Yandy. You could trade a number
Yeah.
of more guys off this team. They're trying to do what they did last year, which was be a mediocre team. Because I don't know, maybe that's a boring kind of purgatory to be in.
But I think there's 2 different ways to do that. There's being a mediocre team and keeping Brandon Lowe and Shane Baz, or it's being a mediocre team with exciting young players that you're building towards something for.
Sure.
And I think that is where the last 2 seasons have felt worse to me. Last year they were on this like they had some vets and so they had some impact players, and you're like, okay, Josh Lowe's coming back. We're gonna have to try. We have to figure out some things that they have like locked in, and they added some good veteran options there for last year. And then the stadium like kind of fell apart. Like that was like a big problem, and like it all kind of fell apart. But there really wasn't like a prospect. There wasn't
Right.
anybody to like. Okay, well, like let's see this for the future. I mean, Chandler Simpson, I guess, but like he was never like a higher end. Like this is a building block. He was a piece. He was an interesting piece.
Yeah, we got Carson at the end.
Carson Williams is the one big one, and there's some interesting stuff there too
Well,
that
we
we
saw
saw.
some worrying stuff from Carson during his time in the big leagues.
I think that was the thing. That's the thing that we'll see. Like we saw like kind of the full end of the spectrum. I think with the Rays, I guess that's my overall point. Is I don't think I'm disagreeing with you about the state of like the Rays
You're
like
just in a
talent
better
level.
mood about it than I am.
I'm just in a better mood about it because there's a direction. I think the biggest issue that I've had the last two seasons and where it's been really, really frustrating, and there's been some good baseball in there. Like, I mean, at one point, last year's team that's objectively not as good or talented as any of those other teams was the best team in the American League.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
the bullpen of all things like fell apart. Like, and that was the one piece that you could be like, well, that's actually legit good. So that's where baseball is really, really weird. But I do think like this team as the Rays, they're going to be much more watchable. But also, like, I guess my biggest thing is I'm not as worried that like Baltimore and New York, like, or not New York, Baltimore and Toronto have had like big off seasons, right? Like Boston and New York have not had good off seasons. They have missed out on a lot of their pieces. Again, there's still a lot of room to go, but they need
No,
to
there's a
still do
lot. And
moves
there's a lot of things we're saying today are going to be moot points.
like in a little bit.
Yeah,
But
tomorrow maybe.
yeah, they have not been as good at those teams. Those teams have had much bigger off seasons, but they are also not on the same part of the curve. And I think that's my thing is like if there was like this Rays team is blowing their shot, I would be a lot more worried. And that's where I'm more critical of where Baltimore is.
No.
If they don't come away with another big starting pitcher, like I need them to have like if I'm Baltimore, if I'm putting a Baltimore Orioles hat on, I need to see them have Framber Valdez or Ranger Suarez because without
Suarez would
them,
be a game changer. I think Valdez would
I
be too,
hate
but
I really don't like that rotation at all. And I'm terrified of that because they are one Kyle Bradish injury and he is just coming back. You're one Kyle Bradish injury away from having a bottom 10 rotation. Like, oops, all Zach Eflins is what you have. You know, Dean Kramer, Tyler Wells, like, yeah, they're all like this guy
I don't know.
that's
You
like,
keep
yeah.
leaving off Shane Baz, who they got, right? Like,
I mean, Shane Boz, is he better than Tyler Wells and Dean Kramer the last few years?
no.
No. And I don't like
But
those
why'd they
guys either.
trade for him? Because they're desperate for pitching, or they think he can be a middle rotation
He
starter?
could be a middle of a rotation starter, and they're desperate for pitching.
Fair. Fair.
And their owners do not want to spend a ton of money. They are spending it on position. They do not value, and this might be a Mark Elias thing when it comes to the payroll. It
Yeah.
may not be the ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Is that he may not like spending money on pitching. We saw that with and I guess he was right. You know, like Tommy John surgery for for the guy they let get away. So like I mean like maybe he's right about that. You spend on position player because they impact the game longer and pitching you throw as many Shane Baz and Tyler Rogers out there and like you know Kyle Stowers for Tyler Rogers. It's worked out both well for both teams, but that started out looking pretty ugly because
Mm-hmm.
Rogers was very very bad and then he kind of clicked. So Shane Baz it might work out, it might not, but they're fine to pay a huge price for pitching that's more cost controllable. They have not wanted to spend money, and I'm a little more critical because like you still have spots where I'm fine having Shane Baz there, but like you need Shane Baz to be that mid rotation guy. You can't hope that he's giving you that in the fourth or fifth spot. He needs to be your number three.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Rogers needs to be your number two. And I don't like going into the season. If you are a World Series contender, I don't like that. If you are a wild card contender, you can do a number of different things because
Yeah.
you know it's much more clear. And that's where my mood is a little bit better. Even though I don't disagree that those four teams are in a tier above.
No, and it's the Rays. Like you talked about how to make up Brandon Law's production. So it's like, okay, if Williams becomes your starting shortstop pretty quickly,
Mhm.
and you go from a 65 WRC plus or whatever Taylor Walls had, I don't know, to a 90.
Was it 65? It might
So
be
you know,
worse.
if Williams is somehow a 90 WRC plus, and you get that much better from that position, and Josh Lowe goes from being a 98 WRC plus or whatever he's been to a 115, right? And DeLuca and Melton are both right around 100. in that 90 to 100 range.
Cedric Mullins has
And
bounced back to like 100.
you know,
Jake Fraley,
Caminero,
100
who even
versus
though he had the
Rays.
big home run numbers, his WRC plus wasn't like super high. Like there were other flaws in his offensive
Mm-hmm.
profile because he's incredibly young. And then you still have Yandy and you still have Aranda and Fiducia gets a full run at it. Um, sure, there's a lot on the, but I could also say that all those things are going to break poorly. That you're going to get
Totally.
regression from Junior in a less hitter friendly ballpark. He mashed at Steinbrenner Field last year. Aranda, maybe maybe there's some link. It didn't look like it when he came back, but maybe there's some lingering stuff from the wrist injury. And Diaz starts to show some signs of aging. And Josh Lowe is what Josh Lowe has shown us he is, and that's not good enough to be an everyday major leaguer. And
Totally.
then Williams continues to strike out a ton. And Melton still needs time splitting between AAA and the big leagues. And DeLuca is not very good. And Velade and Palacios are bench players that are forced into bigger roles. And Mullins doesn't work out, right? Like there's a lot of things that could break poorly. And that was all position players. I didn't touch the pitching, but it does feel like very few sure things. There's I think Caminero, Aranda, and Diaz are the only sure things
Yeah.
in this roster for 2026 for the position players. That's scary. Like Brandon Lowe, maybe not super high ceiling, right? Again for a season like that, but I thought the floor was really high on Brandon Lowe. He was going to be an above league average hitter going into the season, and I don't know how they're going to replace that with a sure thing.
And I just also just do not think this offseason is done.
No, that's true. I
Like
mean, yeah, there's plenty
like
of players
like
out there.
I think right now it is a very like difficult roster to look at and be like, there's so many left-handed batters in the outfield. Like that's
Yeah, and you kind
feels
of
weird.
put yourself in a corner, like with Simpson, with Lowe. You were able to trade Mangum, Miser. I don't know if that was a trade or you just kind of loose.
He was
I don't
a
remember.
DFA and then a trade. I think he
To
got
like
traded.
Kansas
It
City,
wasn't for.
maybe.
It was like cash, I think.
Yeah.
But
So
um,
yeah, then you bring in Fraley, Mullins, and Melton, right?
I think one of the biggest, and it's interesting because I've seen a lot of race fans have very similar takes to this, where it's like we need to like make a splash impact, and like
Mm-hmm.
Ketel Marte like really does jump a lot on this roster
Yeah.
up. He's a big sure thing. He immediately becomes like your best hitter and goes into those other four as your like really good hitters.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want that sure thing, right? But like I also am like, okay, yes, keep involved in that trade option. I don't think though, like I guess my biggest thing is like if you miss out on the postseason this year, is that the end of the world? Like, is that like a failed season?
No.
And right now, I'm like having a real home ballpark, and then potentially making like no headway on a new stadium
Mm.
in the Tampa Bay area, and the Rays go to the wild card. That's a failed season. That's a failed season. Like this stadium, like, and that is also like it's an out off the it's a weird mix of business and like actual baseball, but like the real big important thing for these new owners is to absolutely get something going towards this future of keeping this team here, because at the end of the day nothing else matters, right? Like to get to that true higher level like payroll,
Mm.
to actually have like a sustainable future, like it all comes back to that. So the Rays have to look at not necessarily piecing together an extended window, and that's why I think 2 years ago they traded Paredes and Randy, and they traded like some big pieces. This offseason, I think they can kind of continued that. They kept
Mm-hmm.
Yandy, they kept Yandy still, but other than Yandy, there really isn't a lot of pieces that are like this person is expiring, like
Right.
maybe like Rasmussen gets traded this at the deadline or next offseason, or Shane McClanahan or whatnot. But like there's a lot of pieces that are like this is now starting to feel more like, I don't know, pre this past like window where it looked like this team, it kind of feels like the offseason where you traded Longoria and Odorizzi and Corey Dickerson, and you're like, this team is absolute crap. This is just an absolute dumpster fire of a team. And then they win 90 games, right? Like, and that's not, that is hope, and that's not a strategy. But there is the idea of like building towards actual future is what I'm seeing this offseason as. Building towards the future. And that is including what Zalewski and his team have to do for a stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what Eric Neander has to do with building a sustainable thing. Shane Boz helps you this year. He'd help you next year. Maybe he even has like a big breakout year. But that package really is what you need to do to roll the dice and gamble to be the team that actually can compete at the top or upper echelon, and also have where you sign that one big free agent that makes that big impact, and not just that free agent gets you closer to the wild card. It needs to be the piece that takes you over the top.
Right.
It needs to be the piece that's like, this is the centerpiece. And that's what you saw kind of with Toronto. They have a lot of homegrown talent, and then they added pieces that like are now putting them over the top. And this is when their window is there, they're pushing the chips.
Mm-hmm. And I just wish our window was a little closer. So
I do
it's
too.
just it's a weird feeling going into 2026. It's just a feeling I haven't had. And again, the moves they make the rest of the off season could change that. I think there's still, like I listed, a lot of reasons to be excited. Like a lot of very interesting storylines to follow. If you're a Rays fan this year, and getting back into the Trop and new ownership, and there's going to be stadium talk. It's going to be just like any other old race season. Lots of things to talk about, and I'm sure we will on this show. And I hope we have some more off-season news to talk about. That's going to do it for us this week. But maybe next time you hear from us, there's some more signings, there's some more trades. Hopefully, we don't have to wait like 3 weeks to record a pod over the holiday season. Get these out to you a little more regularly as we are only a few weeks away from pitchers and catchers reporting. The Buck season's over, so I don't know. I'm tuned into the NFL playoff, sure, but in my brain, football season is kind of over, and I'm in the midst of college basketball and the start of baseball season right now. So yeah, should be plenty of fun stuff to talk about. Thank you guys for listening. We've been live on youtube.com/@raiseyourvoice. If you're still watching us on YouTube, make sure to like this video if you haven't already. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the notifications so you can join us when we go live. And we're also still available wherever you get your podcast. If you love what we do on Raise Your Voice, patreon.com/Raise Your Voice. You can become a member for as little as $1 a month. As always, make sure to head on over to draysbay.com to check out all of that great Rays coverage, including a great piece on Joe Boyle written by Ben Whitelaw. So head on over to draysbay to check that out, and a ton of other great coverage of the off season. Once again, thank you guys for listening.